Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Market Minute. My mission is to help you better understand the latest trends in the U.S. real estate market and share with you my analysis and industry expertise. I want to help you gain an advantage and feel confident whenever you're buying and selling real estate. I'm your host, Mark Salib. I'm a passionate real estate professional, advisor, and investor, and I love what I do. Follow and DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group. Send me an email, mark@thesalibgroup.com. And as always, thank you for tuning in to today's show. Redfin just released its list of the hottest neighborhoods in America for 2026, and the results are very fascinating. The bigger question is, if you own a home in one of these neighborhoods, is now the perfect time to sell in all this mania? Or are these areas still early in the cycle and likely to stay red hot for years to come? All right, that's what I'm going to dive into today. So this is a new Redfin report published just on May 6th, today, 2026, by Celia Fernandez and Assad Khan. And what Redfin did was they ranked neighborhoods based on year-over-year growth in listing views, so just how many folks actually looked up the listing and viewed it. Their what they call compete score. They looked at home sales activity. They looked at how and if homes were selling above asking price. And they were looking at overall competitiveness of that particular housing market. So the data covers from January through February of 2026, and it compares it to that same period of time in 2025. So year-over-year data, mainly from January, February, from last year to this year. And let me just explain what they mean by their compete score. So Redfin has a compete score, and what they do is they measure how competitive a housing market is for buyers. Just, is it competitive, right? Are there lines out the door, multiple contracts, multiple offers, backup offers, backup contracts? And what they do is they range the score from 0 to 100. 100 is extremely competitive. 0 is not so much. So according to Redfin, the score, it looks at a bunch of stuff besides just that. It looks at days on market too. It looks at, homes, are they selling above asking? Just how hard is it to win the home in that neighborhood? Is it easy or is it hard, right? So when a neighborhood has all that going for it, it ranks very, very high, gets a high score. All right. Now, these hot neighborhoods, they're not going to be what you necessarily expect. That's one thing I noticed from this list. And I'm going to explain why. Now, and it tells you, and what I like about it is it tells you what buyers are prioritizing. Where are they looking? Where do they want to go to? Where do they want to move to? Okay. Now, it also, by the way, it speaks to that market split I keep talking about. All right. The hottest neighborhood, this ranked number 1, and it was Lando Lakes, Florida. Lando Lakes is a pretty small town in Florida. Now, it's probably closest metro-wise to Tampa, Florida. I would say Orlando, Florida is not too far away either. But home sales were up significantly. Listing views up 91% year over year. And the median price growth in Lando Lakes, Florida, is up 7.6% year over year. So prices are growing there. Now, what's interesting about this? Lando Lakes, right? It's not Tampa. It's not Orlando. It's not South Beach. It's not Miami. It's a suburban, very suburban family. I would call it family-oriented. And there's a lot of value in there, right? And Redfin notes this. They bring this up. They're saying in the article, look, it's a place with more space. It's got newer construction, which I think people are looking more for new construction. Schools and lots of parks and just a lower density, easier lifestyle. It is not your typical city lifestyle. And it's where demand's going, right? So people are perhaps leaving sort of that city life in places like Tampa Bay that's just gotten really unaffordable. And what are they doing? They're migrating out into these suburbs, a place like Lando Lakes. That's near number 1, folks. All right. So let's see. What else is on this list? Okay, Plant City, Florida. Listing views, 30.6% year-over-year. Home sale growth, 5.9% year-over-year growth. But how about this? Plant City, Florida, prices were actually down year-over-year, 7%. So that's crazy, right? I don't get it. So much demand, but prices were down. And it tells you that the demand increase is kind of recent. And it also tells you that demand can increase before prices actually show up in the data, right? So people are looking, people are shopping, they're viewing, they're trying to get under contract, but prices, they haven't quite caught up yet. They haven't exploded higher yet, but they're probably about to, right? Based on this data, you would think they're about to. And a lot of buyers are probably looking for value there, right? But it's interesting, right? You look at that, you say, well, views are rising, search is rising, demand rising. Well, what's going on? Is that the next place that kind of, is Plant City the next place that prices might start to react soon, right? And is there opportunity there potentially? Now, I think the list was dominated by the Midwest. So other than those two towns in Florida, the Midwest had 6 of the top 10 neighborhoods on the list, So, and we've been talking about the Midwest a lot and how it keeps showing up as in the data as a place where folks are looking. But look at what Redfin considers the hottest neighborhoods or cities or towns in the Midwest. Oak Creek, Wisconsin, 38% of homes sold above the asking price in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Views surged. Okay, strong suburban growth there. West Bend, Wisconsin. Nearly half of the homes in West Bend, Wisconsin sold above asking price. Lincoln Park, Michigan. Sales were up. They got tight inventory there in Lincoln Park, as noted here. It's interesting because I think during COVID, people really went after, the big city migration moves into places like, Miami and Austin, Texas, and Tampa Bay, Florida. A lot of boom markets. But now look at what buyers are doing. They want something else. They want somewhere affordable. They want stability. They want to be a little bit away from the city. Good schools, lower taxes. They're looking for value. Okay, where else? New York. New York still has pulled. New York suburbs keep coming up in these lists. It ranked very high. There were places like Oceanside, New York, and Little Neck, Queens, that made Redfin's hottest markets list. That's also pretty interesting. This to me totally kills that narrative that everyone's leaving New York City. I apologize. I mean, leaving New York. They may be leaving New York City, and yes, population has come down there, but maybe they're just going to the suburbs of New York. They're not leaving New York City, right? Excuse me, New York State. So that's a good one. Keeps coming up. New York suburbs. Interesting. All right. One other thing I'm noticing here, a few of the neighborhoods, the views are higher, the competition looks better, the demand looks better, but sales were somewhat flat and prices were not necessarily exploding higher. So I feel like, buyers are active here, but affordability might be capping how far prices can run, would be my take. It's not just a shoe-in that, prices are going to shoot up because people don't necessarily want to pay a lot in some of these neighborhoods. All right, what else? All right, so the main question here, which I intimated earlier in the episode, is it a good time to sell if you're in one of these neighborhoods? You see, oh man, I got a house here, I got a property, an investment property, whatever it may be. Well, possibly, but I would not automatically assume this is any kind of peak going on. Look, you got to look into why it's happening. Why are these hot neighborhoods, right? Many of these markets are just benefiting from a longer-term affordability trend, right? They're benefiting from demographic shifts. There's some suburban demand probably going on there. There's, Gen X, Gen Z, maybe doing some family formation. They're looking towards the suburbs and they're saying, you know what, we don't want to be caught up in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom condo. We want 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. All right, we got to get out of the city. We got to find somewhere in the suburbs that we can afford a house, single family home with a yard. I want a dog, I want a cat, and so forth, right? This is just practical living preferences and affordability. I think that's what's going on here. Now, those places also have new construction going on. So if inventory were to suddenly skyrocket in these places, or if our economy weakens or rates spike higher, then yeah, these markets are going to cool down, right? But this goes to show you that people are still want to own a home. They're still trying. But I do see, these are some strong fundamental reasons for why these neighborhoods are so hot. So yeah, I think there's lasting power in this, as long as that trend continues, which I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I mean, I still think cities are very unaffordable for a lot of people, and people need, and they want and they're interested in buying a home. So, I mean, look, if you're selling in this neighborhood, you got leverage, that's for sure. But I think, in my opinion, to me, it's just an evolving housing market, right? Continues to evolve. And you see a list like this and you think to yourself, wow, the places attracting the most demand today, they're not necessarily the places you might expect. And I think it tells us a lot, by the way, about where things may be going in this housing market and how it's evolving and where it's going into at least the near future and maybe even the intermediate future. Before we end today's show, stop what you're doing and subscribe right now to Real Estate Market Minute Plus. Listen to all episodes ad-free. Get exclusive bonus episodes and content, and help support the show's growth, longevity, and future improvements. Go to realestatemarketminute.supercast.com right now. You can also find the link in this episode's show description. Check it out. I know you'll love it. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time.